Hello Free State and welcome to Tlasala TV. Now today on Tlasala TV we bring to you a truly important occasion, and today that buzzword is cannabis. What we can do with it and exactly how it can empower our people, which is why we joined the Department of Economics, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs as they have an expo based on the wonderful weed itself and see exactly how they Tlasala.
We are here to exhibit our products. The theme of our ARG, that's the All Africa Rastafari Gathering, is self-reliance, made in Africa by African products. So we are here to exhibit products made in Africa by Africans for all over the world. You observe that most of our textile industries, cosmetic industries, is being taken over by the neo-colonizer, and so as Rastafari, we are here to make a difference, to create self-reliance for African and the Rastafari nation. So I'm exhibiting here what we call batakari. Batakari is made from the northern region of Ghana. It's hand woven, and coming to South Africa, one of the things that we hope to achieve is that the hemp industry can provide us enough fabric so that our local producers at home can get hemp to produce this beautiful batakari we have in here. We have batik also made from Ghana, and it is best if the hemp industry can provide the fiber that our women use for this batik. From batik you can sew your shirt like I'm wearing, you can sew your bewa like I'm wearing. We also have bracelets, earrings from Ghana.
What has been happening, I've met a few people individually. What has been happening is there's been quite some uncertainty as to what that means and what can and what cannot be done. So there's a September 2018 Constitutional Court ruling, and you still have all other acts that deal with the possession and use of the hemp under discussion today. Now, as I was discussing with my colleagues, and her team, we said before we can invite our political principals to this engagement, we must clear those issues ourselves and say what is permissible and what is not. Secondly, within what is permissible, what opportunities are there for us as a province? I'm sure some of you have seen in the news reports of licenses that have been issued in the Western Cape, and there's been that question, where to from here? So I said to colleagues, I hope the outcome of this engagement, amongst other issues that we are going to engage on, would be to have a clear roadmap on what do we need to do to grasp this opportunity with two hands and be able to ensure that the economy of this province benefit.
SAPRA is a South African health product regulatory agency, which is a regulatory authority that stems from the Medicines and Related Substances Act 101 of 1965. Okay? This implies that any person who grows and possesses cannabis or cannabis-based products has to seek authorization from SAPRA.
The global cannabis market is expected to grow to 272 billion by 2028, and it has in brackets Barclays. Yeah? Right? That is US dollars. Right? So, how much of that global market is South Africa willing to get? And within that, Rastafari willing to get? That is how ones are supposed to be looking at it. Because the Europeans and so forth, they've already done their research and have projected how much money they expect to make in the next, 10, 11, 9 years. So really and truthfully, how I see it, it's as if you're running a 400-meter race and certain ones have got a 250-meter head start. And they're expecting you to run the race on a par. Ones need to wake up to the reality of what is presented here. One of the brothers said, our gold. This is our gold. Well, I perceive gold as culture. The food that we eat, the music that we listen to, all these things, our culture, language that we speak, etc., etc. The African man needs to get, and woman, and children need to get into their right minds. And when you get into the right minds, you will learn to defend your gold mines and not give them away to next people.
I think Destia deserves a round of applause. For me, coming from Ghana, and for the rest of us in Africa, South Africa is way ahead of the curve, truth be told. And what you're doing here is very commendable. I've been taking copious notes, and I stopped practicing journalism like a decade ago. But because of this, I'm gonna put a piece in the Daily Graphic, and I'll make sure Destia gets a copy. Because you see, what you're doing offers crucial lessons for us in Ghana. Truth be told, if you do the simple mathematics, cannabis is the game changer for Africa. If you look at the numbers that the big man projected by 2025, and it's compounded annual growth, so it's not simple growth. So if we in Africa, we want to actually change the lives of our people, this is the tool.
You know, industry is one of the new frontiers. You know, in a sense that we're just decriminalized cannabis not so long ago. So the Free State decided they are not going to sit back and wait for everybody to jump on that train and be passengers on that train. So they decided as a province that we're going to take the lead. And this is why all of you are here today. And this is a march to create jobs and grow the Free State economy in the pursuit of the Free State we want.
A lot has been written on the medical, benefits of cannabis, and a lot of studies have been done from the laboratory to clinical research, where they have shown the potential of cannabis in pain, especially the potential of cannabis in cancer, the potential of cannabis in diabetes, and also the potential of cannabis in Alzheimer's. And a lot of that research is also ongoing in terms of the South African perspective, where we in the Department of Pharmacology at the University of the Free State are engaged in looking at the medical benefits of cannabis. We are looking at its potential on cancer, different cancers. We are looking at its potential also on Alzheimer's, diabetes, and pain. Yeah, when we started our research in the department, we collected a lot of cannabis specimens worldwide. We collected specimens from Canada, we collected specimens from the UK, Afghanistan, I think Africa, Lesotho, and also the cannabis from the Eastern Cape. Because our project was to focus on the local cannabis. We wanted to test and develop our local cannabis. Based on the results that we have published in our scientific journals, where we're looking at the in vitro potential of cannabis to inhibit breast cancer, the cannabis from Emampondweni in the Eastern Cape best performed all the strains of the cannabis we collected worldwide. That was followed, I think, by the cannabis from Lesotho. Our interest, therefore, was the hypothesis that most probably the cannabis from Emampondweni and the cannabis from Lesotho could only be the same. Maybe they're just being separated by a political border. So we had to test them and see if there are any differences. And we indeed found that the cannabis from Emampondweni contained twice as much THC compared to the cannabis in Lesotho. And that was the major difference that could explain the differences in their pharmacological activity.
Okay, my presentation was about the processing opportunities in hemp processing opportunities in South Africa, our perspective on hemp processing. I'll tell you what I believe is that already we don't have a lot of farmers going on in the Free State. We've got a lot of people farming in KZN and Eastern Cape. They're already way ahead of us. But I thought, Free State being the center of South Africa, Mukhubu, the belly button of South Africa. You talk about Harrismith, it's just in the middle of South Africa. We can set up a process plant. We can be a process plant and just that, sending all this material that we process to different provinces in South Africa. So we can actually do it here. And obviously, because I don't think we have time to make sure that the cultivation is done right, because for us to be able to get cultivation properly, to get the processing done properly, cultivation has to be done right. So right now, for us to speed things up, I believe that the best thing to do is to just get into processing, set up processing facilities, create jobs. There's tons of processing facilities that can be set up, for industrial hemp. We're focusing too much on medicinal hemp, which is it's going to be a big problem because we are hungry in the Free State. We need to make money. There's an opportunity for our people to get work with using industrial hemp. I'm very happy. This THEA has shown interest in actually the cannabis industry in creating jobs using this plant. And it has shown its interest in being able to learn more on what they can do for us in the industry. And I'm always grateful for that opportunity that they're doing. But I also think that next time this should be well advertised. You won't believe that there's so many people in the Free State. Some of them were not represented here today because they did not know about the Expo. Like I mentioned in my presentation about the women in Harrismith that are planning to make hemp diapers, baby diapers and sanitary pads. It's a project that the people in the Free State, they've grouped themselves. They are ready to go ahead. All they need is assistance from the government, and they should be called to the events like this.
Everyone we know are marching together and how we are marching will be able to get somewhere and get part of the cake and make sure you are involved in the cannabis business. But if we still talk in our corners and have our individual interest as Nhlonipho to say, I'm talking as individual, I'm talking as this, I'm pleading with you and I'll plead with you. Please, let's work together. Put our differences aside, whatsoever, but let's have the strategy. And let's have those volunteers, steering committee, whatsoever, and have that, write that to guide the province and protect the province's interest economically. Because all that we need, you need to find traction and a way of benefiting from this cannabis. That's all that there is to it.
I'd like to advise, upfront that please just interact or approach the department so that we can advise further on the legislative requirements of the EI process in order to ensure that where you are going to grow or plant, cannabis, the land is suitable, for sustainable production of, the cannabis. And again, where the EIA, process will be required or will, expect, the cannabis growers to take cognizance of is even during the construction of the plant, to manufacture or process that cannabis. So in that case also, we'd like to advise that please just approach the department, to get further advice, because there are some, technical aspects that go with the EI process.
Now, what the Judge Carol Prince judgment implies today is that an adult person may use and or possess cannabis in private for personal use or consumption. That is Section 4. Now, as long as that cannabis is possessed for use and or possession in private for personal use or consumption, the police will no longer act against anybody. Please, we need to take into consideration that the protection only covers adults, not children. And smoking, for an example, in public is still a criminal offense.
At the point at which we are now, we are at least beyond personal use. The reason for us gathering here is not to consider personal use. The reason for us being here is to consider a new economic activity within the realm of what we call radical economic transformation. And that is the industrialization of cannabis and hemp. And that, for me, becomes important to say what should be the regulatory instruments for this particular industry to grow, because it is new. Secondly, how do we finance this particular industry? We have financed a lot of other things for them to get ground and grow on their own, develop in the private sector in this particular industries. You cannot talk about commercialization of the farming in cannabis. What is the policy? What should be the strategy? Who should be empowered? You cannot talk about the financing because no bank will give you money to go and grow cannabis, not in South Africa. So those are the areas that we need to look at from a policy review point of view. However, we still have the question of skills development. That's where our institutions of higher learning come in. That's where research and development has to guide the curriculum. What do we teach? Ndaden Shabatsi, what do you teach your students who are going to be potential growers or extension officers to help the farmers that would want to work in this industry? Having said so, how do we then commercialize from the production side, primary production, to the processing? And how should the processing be regulated? We know that we have SAFRA. What is the limitation of SAFRA in terms of the full value chain in the cannabis industry that we envisage? We have the South African Bureau of Standards. What should be their role in determining the export market or the local use of cannabis for pharmaceutical production and for cosmetic production. So there are a number of these players that still have to come to the table. We still have to engage with them. We still have to get them to understand where we are going and what we want to do, and to ensure that we pull together in a particular direction.
So there is any inroads into the cannabis community that does not involve Rastafari is going to cause you problems. Secondly, you need to minimize speaking on our behalf. We can speak for ourselves. And third, you need to stop talking down on us and thinking you need to lecture us about something. We know this thing, we're in this struggle for all the time. So having said that, I like to put this line. The problem with our African intellectualism, it has a problem whenever it gets questioned. We don't question you as a person. It's not a disrespect. We question the ideas that you come and present in front of us. We're questioning that. We're not questioning you, we respect that.
Listening to our police authority here, talking about the criminal aspects of possessing marijuana, using it in public places, etc. And I'm trying to look at how we can avoid the whole issue of where is the public sector. Yeah, for example, at airports, at seaports, there are private places for people to go and smoke cigarettes. Now, if the police would take into consideration that people will have their private herb in their hand, and if they have places in the public, like people can smoke cigarette in private places, I'm sure that will help a lot of people from smoking on the street publicly, hence becoming a problem for society, for those who are not comfortable with other people smoking.
Of you people are sitting here like this is a nice topic and whatnot. We come from communities whereby we know the value of this plant, and we know that there is a market right now. Like, even though you say we can't deal, we know we can make money from it right now just by going outside. You know what I'm saying? And there's a very criminal element that you guys are not looking at as the government, whereby you are now giving certain people rights to grow this.
When it comes to Distea, although we are not dealing with cannabis per se at the moment, we support agro-processing as part of our initiatives. So we deal with different sectors: manufacturing, clothing and textile. We deal with agro-processing. We deal with mining issues, as well as, to a lesser extent, transport and logistics. So in terms of processing, that's why I'm here, because there has to be a lot of processing once cannabis comes on board, and processing will start to take place. So I'm just going to outline some of the programs that we have in Distea. We've got a number of funding for processing part, not the primary production side, but the processing side. So it means Department of Agriculture will take care of assisting people with the production itself. But once you decide to go now into processing, then Distea can come on board with some of its stakeholders.
Now, the Cannabis Expo didn't just center around speeches and legislation, but it also focused on exactly what people can do with the plant itself, exhibiting various crafts that were handmade from all over Africa and all over the world. Let's see exactly what they have to show us.
Industry na ina le potential ya haholo. Actually monyetla ona wa Expo ko re tlo lekola hore na re boemong bo feng nkile bona because cannabis e etsa ntho tse ngata, e etsa pampiri, e etsa oil, e etsa dieta, e etsa diaparo, e etsa dintho tsena tsa dikoloi, dashboard tsa dikoloi, e etsa di-oil tsa meriana haholo tse thusang ka bo di-cancer, mahloko e le hore makgowa ha kgone ho ya phekola. So re bona gore there's a lot potential industry within this. Everything we recycle from the leaf, the roots, the seeds, the stem, kaofela hona ntho e lahlang cannabising. O kgona ho etsa di-bricks. So hona le di-trainings tse ngata tse bentse re di etsa le rona re go utwa gore like how to improve from more thing to tap to the entire value chain ya cannabis.
We plant and harvest wild, indigenous herbs and others, or I could say exotic. Ha qeta re tlhotlha le rolena le bitswang essential oil. Ka essential oil ena re etsa di-products tsena tse le di bonang mona tafoleng, re etsa disepa tse hlapang, re etsa matswai, re etsa di-healing balms, re etsa di-ointments, re etsa di-tinctures, herbal tinctures. Matokwane mo ke nang teng gore most of our products have cannabis oil or hemp seed oil as an ingredient. So sepe mona o ka bona ke motswako wa di-oli tse fapaneng. There's olive oil, there's sunflower oil, avocado, and cannabis, and many other things that we mentioned. In your bath salts, we use cannabis oil plus a little bit of the dried herb as ingredient. In our massage oils, there is infused oil of cannabis. Re tseba kaofela di matla a yona cannabis ha e tla letlalong and ha e penetrate letlalo lena e fihla e etsang ka hare ka mane. And in our tinctures here, there's cannabis tincture and 3 others blended in this. So generally ke ntho re etsang here.
That we'd like to bring the Free State Cannabis Expo to a close. Surely there's so much more we need to learn about the product and how it can empower our people across the board. So much more effort needs to be taken into education, especially around things like the laws and legislations that govern the product itself. It's been an informative time for everyone gathered, and of course, an informative time for us from Tlasala TV. That being said, my name is Bunyana Tika reporting for Tlasala TV right here at Earth in Bloemfontein. Don't forget, of course, Tlasala TV is indeed brought to you by the Free State Provincial Government in association with Bombonero Investments. Otherwise, we'll see you back home.